Okay, let's officially begin. Hello, everyone. How are you all doing? Let's have a one-word check-in in the chat, please. What's your state of mind today? How are you feeling? How are you doing? Let's gauge the vibe of the room today. I hope that we are all flourishing deeply on this Tuesday afternoon, morning, evening, wherever in the world you are. Hopeful. Hopeful, grateful, inspired, well, re-energized, present, wonderful, savoring. Okay, well, welcome everyone to our May meeting of the Flourishing Network. So great to see so many of you here as usual. And today we are delighted for this meeting to be chaired by our Spirituality and Flourishing Interest Group, about whom I will share the Harvard webpage in the chat in case you would like to learn more. It's also shared in the email I've sent out this week. And that group is chaired by Reverend Dr. Kelly Murphy-Mason, co-chaired by Kelly and Nicoleta Acatrinei. And without further ado, I'm going to hand over to their very capable hands to run this meeting. So that's Dr. Nicoleta Acatrinei. So Kelly and Nicoleta, please take it away.
Thank you so much, John. And thank you everyone for being here today. Welcome to this May meeting. I am Kelly Murphy-Mason, along with Nicoleta Acatrinei. I co-chair the Spirituality and Flourishing Interest Group. And we're excited to lead this workshop on tapping spirituality to promote human flourishing. We are joined today by SFIG member Paulo Torrens. If you could just wave, Paulo, who will be discussing the topic of forgiveness with us today, as well as several other group members who you will meet later on, who are eager to talk to you about the potential you see spirituality having to foster human flourishing. We're so glad to have each of you here today. I want to start our time together the way we actually start our monthly SFIG meetings, which is with a centering exercise for this group. The late American theologian Howard Thurman reminded us how good it is to center down. Indeed, it is. And so I invite each of you to get comfortable where you are seated or where you are standing and relax a bit into that posture. Notice points of contact, the physical support you are receiving. Take a deep breath and release it, along with any tensions or distractions you brought to our time together. Feel the grounding your feet receive from the floor. If it feels right, you can close your eyes. Otherwise, you can simply soften your gaze. Now turn your attention inward. In this moment of quiet, we can each connect to an inner stillness. Let yourself come to center, wherever you experience that most deeply, however it makes itself known to you today. Realize that the deep wisdom that resides within is available to you at any time. When you feel ready, you can open your eyes and bring the world into clearer focus as you return your attention to this group and to our gathering. Now I invite each of you to place one hand over your heart and then another over your heart. You can give them both a press and feel the warmth they return to you. We do this in gratitude for the work that is given to us to do and that becomes ours to do together. So I do have a PowerPoint presentation today. I'll tell you a little bit more about our group. If you've seen the website, some of this will be familiar to you. And we of the Flourishing Network. And I will let you know the Spirituality and Flourishing Interest Group is a multi-faith, interspiritual, and cross-disciplinary gathering of individuals committed to participating in a teaching learning community that seeks to make substantive contributions to fuller human flourishing. So we are at the outset, when we started this fall, we were one of 4 interest groups. We were first announced to the network in June 2022 following conversation with Dr. Matthew Lee, director of the Flourishing Network in the Human Flourishing Program at Harvard. And this idea for a group grew out of the earlier communities of practice model of the network. When I originally convened it, I envisioned that it would consist primarily of religious professionals and spiritual care providers. I've been surprised by the diversity of our members. Members of the group met for the first time online in September 2022. We are now one of 10 interest groups in total, and the only one to focus exclusively on spiritual topics. We include individuals from various fields, including medicine and mental health, education in the academy, law and economics, theology and religion. Some of our members are multivocational and have undertaken or are presently undertaking extensive interdisciplinary studies. We come from the US, Canada, the UK, Europe, and Egypt. We have people who are current and former clergy, including 2 Protestant ministers, a Catholic deacon, a former bishop, and 2 Zen Buddhist teachers. Our members represent different religious traditions and spiritual perspectives, including eco-spirituality, Buddhism, Unitarian Universalism, Islam, and Catholic, Protestant, and Orthodox strands of Christianity. Our work stays focused on 2 key lines of inquiry with a couple of questions guiding us. The first is this: how might we foster flourishing through various spiritual and/or religious traditions, communities, approaches, observances, teachings, and practices? And second, what sort of interventions and involvements allow us to tap the spiritual and/or religious resources available to us individually and collectively, and develop further our human capacities for connectedness? These lines of inquiry were informed by the research coming out of the Harvard program, much of it authored by Dr. Tyler Vanderweel. He has identified religious community as a clear pathway to human flourishing alongside family, work, and educational settings. His findings are consistent with those of other researchers, such as Dr. Lisa Miller at the Spirituality Mind-Body Institute at Columbia University, who has demonstrated the many protective health and mental health benefits individuals derive from making and maintaining spiritual commitments. The Harvard Human Flourishing Program has a website that provides an overview of recent research done around religious communities. This page includes articles about the decreased risk for substance abuse, risky behavior, and depression for those with religious upbringing, about diminished mortality rates for those who regularly attend worship services, and about the public health benefits of adopting forgiveness practices. It also puts into the public domain assessment tools like the Flourishing Measure and supportive technology like the Flourishing app for personal devices. Members of SFIG meet monthly during the academic year, and regular attendance and participation is a group expectation of ours. We stay current on research findings published by the Human Flourishing Program. In addition, every month, we feature a presentation by a group member that highlights their current work or research. Ours is a model based on interaction and encounter rather than exchange, and we engage one another in thoughtful and informed dialogue. We decided to have our group membership capped at 15. When that limit was hit this spring, we closed our enrollment. At the start of next program year, we plan to reopen enrollment with a slightly increased number. Group presentations thus far have included a wide range of topics, including Byzantine and patristic perspectives on human nature, the role of affect in corporate worship, relational intelligence and spiritual emergence, A Theory of the Evolution of Morality, Integral Polarity Practice, and Spiritual Development Among Muslim Educators. In March 2023, I preached a sermon on cultivating spirituality for flourishing in Memorial Church, the University Chapel, and Harvard Yard. You can find a recording of that online if you're interested. Then in April 2023, a couple of SFIG members also participated in an interdisciplinary conference on forgiveness held at Memorial Church. This was co-sponsored by a number of Harvard affiliates and the Templeton World Foundation. In just a bit, Paulo will speak on how he incorporates various perspectives of forgiveness into his church and clinical work. And this month, we also launched our SFIG website, which Nicoleta will preview for you near to the end of our meeting today. More generally, the members of SFIG encourage the sharing of resources and offer one another encouragement around our various initiatives. Following contemporary academic trends, we in SFIG have a keen interest in interdisciplinary study. The April 2023 conference on forgiveness brought together scholars from various fields to discuss a matter that in the past might have been considered a point of religious observance or personal piety. Yet the considerable public health benefits of forgiveness practices have been demonstrated time and again. They also have cross-cultural validity, as recent studies of Dr. Everett Worthington's REACH model demonstrated in 5 different countries. One way to shift cultural norms toward attitudes of forgiveness is to circulate stories of people forgiving others and also being forgiven themselves. In recent years, the Global Forgiveness Project has reported extensively on these instances, often in combat and conflict zones. Founded by Marina Cantacuzino, the Forgiveness Project normalizes and educates around the forgiveness practices. As she says, facts fade and stories stick. Stories also circulate. Of course, sacred scripture is also replete with stories of forgiveness. One better known piece is the book of Jonah from the Hebrew scriptures. It is typically recited as the Torah portion during the Yom Kippur services held in Jewish synagogues on the Day of Atonement each year. And it tells the story of Jonah, who arrives in Nineveh, courtesy of a whale, and preaches repentance to the city, which does indeed repent and is forgiven of its wrongdoing and receives a divine pardon, much to Jonah's consternation. Of course, wisdom traditions all around the world hold forgiveness as a spiritual imperative. At the same time, there's no denying the historic and present wrongs done by and in the name of institutional religion itself. So believers and non-believers alike may be called on to forgive those as well. Dr. Frank Fincham at Florida State University recently received a multi-million-dollar grant from Templeton to further his research on what he calls divine forgiveness, or DF. DF seems to hold potential psychological benefits for those who struggle to achieve self-forgiveness or interpersonal forgiveness. We see an association between believing one can be forgiven by a supreme being or higher power and believing that forgiveness is both possible and a worthy or even necessary undertaking. Some of you may have heard the story of St. Francis of Assisi and the almond tree. Francis is known for using all creation as a basis for ongoing theological reflection. This included plants and animals he encountered, as well as the sun and the moon that he observed. He often entered into spiritual dialogue with them, asking those he called his sisters and brothers and siblings to share their experiential and elemental wisdom with him. In this well-loved story, Francis asked the almond tree if it could please speak to him of God. Immediately, we are told in the story, the tree bursts into bloom. Many of us in the Spirituality and Flourishing Interest Group and in the wider world today believe that the sacred is best witnessed through the fullest possible flourishing of life. Another saint in the Christian tradition, Irenaeus of Lyon, is often quoted as saying, "The glory of God is the human person fully alive." We may use different languages around the divine, but many of us in the Spirituality and Flourishing Interest Group would testify to this. As impressed as we might be by the robust findings of research about the ways that religious life and spiritual practice can foster human flourishing, for some of us, this is less a matter of the strength of the science and more a matter of staying true to a personal article of faith. We are not necessarily promoting an instrumental attitude towards spirituality or advocating that it simply be treated as a means to an end, but rather suggesting that it could rightly be regarded as an end in and of itself, as an expression of a good intent at the very heart of creation. The question that guides our ongoing work in Spirituality and Flourishing Interest Group is this: what potential do we see spirituality holding in the promotion of fuller human flourishing? We are going to ask each of you to consider that question more deeply today, because during the latter half of this hour, you will be invited to join a small group with one of our SFIG members leading a discussion around that. You will see that very question dropped into our chat box momentarily, in fact. We are as eager to hear your thoughts on this topic as we are to share our own. But before we have those discussions, I'd like to introduce SFIG member Paulo Torrens, who lives in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Paulo is a Brazilian, as well as a psychotherapist, social psychologist, and permanent deacon with the Archdiocese of Boston. He has routinely made therapeutic use of forgiveness in his different community contexts. As part of his work with inpatients at the psychiatric hospital where he currently practices, Paulo leads a forgiveness group. He has graciously agreed to share his experience around that with us today. So Paulo, I'm wondering if you could start by telling us which aspects of forgiveness seem to be most challenging to people in your estimation.
Well, I would say is the feeling of anger and being unable of forgive yourself by your feelings, not because of your feelings, and the sense of being wronged. So, and all this that comes together is the feeling of rage, the feeling of being unable of accept what happened and to see, in fact, ahead in the future. So I would say that's what makes it difficult for people, from my experience, to forgive and to be able to forgive and go to the process of forgiving.
What areas of confusion do you think exist around the issues of forgiveness or the process of forgiveness?
Well, I think it is, we've been talking about that. It is as part of the science of forgiveness. Forgiveness, it doesn't mean necessarily that things will go back to where they were. There is not a mandate of forgiveness in the sense that we know that's good, we know that's necessary, we feel that's necessary, but there is not a moment in which you say that it has to happen. Forgiveness sometimes is a long life process. Is a process that we don't know exactly in which point we feel the fullness of the blessing of forgiving or being forgiven. So in this sense, yes, that's what we're looking for, to be able to be in the process.
And what interventions or approaches seem to facilitate forgiveness most in your experience, Paulo?
Well, the ones that address the fact that you have to forgive yourself first, and you have to have developed a sense of, I think we've been speaking about that in part of one of the sections, one of the process of the forgiven model, which is that forgiveness is a gift. Forgiveness is a gift that you give to the offender. And in the sense, the process of forgiving and being forgiving is not only about ourselves, but is about the other, about the offender, the person who offended or wronged us. And in this sense, it's about all of us, because when you do that, when you give this gift, is a gift of hope. It's a gift of hope in the sense that you put the hope that this person will not repeat the cycle, that the offense that was made was not going to be repeated in other situations with other people. In the sense you're putting this trust and putting the hope in all of us. So in the sense of the sin that we call all of the wrongs, that because each one of us is capable and able of repeating the same offense. When you think about revenge, and I think that's what makes it difficult to see the sides and the damage of revenge. When we think about revenge, we think about an ongoing cycle of violence. So if you're able to stop that or find a way of working in this direction, so that's the gift of hope that involves and benefits all of us.
And what encouragement can people be given to forgive more readily in light of all of that, Paulo?
To look at the other person as you would look to yourself is not difficult to do. It's not is accessible to us. It's hard to accept, and sometimes it takes a while for you to be able to do that. To have empathy, to have the sense of an understanding, and that has to be a rational process as well as an emotional process to understand where the other people come from, or the other person or the other situation comes from. To understand is not to justify. To understand is not to say that to reification of the situation. You have to see that as the wrong it is, and work in the way of resolving the problem. But again, to have an understanding, to be able to empathy and compassion, that's, I would say that's a first and important step in the process of, as you call, recovery therapy or the process of forgiveness.
Thank you so much, Paulo, for sharing your experience and insight with us today. Paulo will be leading one of our small group discussions alongside with fellow SFIG members, John Kessler, Thomas McConkey, Kenneth Primrose, Cheryl Scaramuza, and Nicoleta Acatrinei. You will have roughly 15 minutes to speak with them about the potential you see spirituality holding in the promotion of fuller human flourishing. John will assign you to breakout groups. And after that, small group leaders will report back to the larger network about the main ideas that were shared at this time. So with that, Jonathan, I will turn the meeting over to you.
Absolutely. Okay, so you're all about to see on your screen 5 breakout rooms appear with the names of the respective chairs.
So there should actually be 6. There should be 6.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm sorry, excuse me, 6. There are 6 breakout rooms set up.
Wonderful.
It doesn't give me numbers unless I call it a number. And there's between 7 and 9 people in each room. Just let me assign a couple more to here. Yeah, there we go. I'm just going to move a couple of people around so they're even. One moment. Okay, and there we go. All right, so you've all been assigned a room. Have a great discussion. See you shortly.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
John, I'm not going into a room.
Yeah, I haven't put you in a room.
Thank you. I was like, why is it not giving me the option to decline this? But that's why.
Matt, are you also recording? You're muted right now.
I was recording, but I just stopped during that.
Good. It was you that, I think it was you that stopped it then. So I was wondering who paused it then.
Yeah. Once we come back, we can restart it.
Okay.
All right, you guys are pros, clearly.
Jason, let me add you to a room. Here we go.
Yeah, looks like I got kicked out. So
right,
can you re-add me?
Yeah, although I'm not. Why am I not seeing you here? Oh, here we go. It says you haven't joined, but I'll just put you in another one. Here we go. There you go. Did you see anything now?
Yes, it's a different room this time.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I'm going to assign some others here as well. There we go. Okay. Cool.
Do you also want to assign Amory?
Okay, Jason, you're back again.
Now let's try one more time, and I will make sure that I don't click the same button. Maybe I'm hitting the wrong button when I go to these rooms, or maybe there's just something wrong. So,
all right.
Sorry about that.
I haven't assigned Amrit, Kelly, because Amrit can't really participate in discussion today.
Oh, okay.
Oh, people are coming back. Why are people coming back? Just reassign these people.
Well, while John's doing that, thanks, Kelly, for organizing and hosting really important conversation, both about forgiveness and about the role of spirituality in flourishing. So I'm curious to see what the report out is like.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that, actually.
I'm working on a related topic today myself. So
were you involved with planning the forgiveness conference?
No, I wasn't. I'm involved with many other things, but not.
I know, you're a busy person. Yeah.
A little too busy this week, but glad to be here and glad this is taking place. So thanks.
Yeah, I am too.
And thanks, John, for all you're doing to keep us moving forward. It's a lot, and we've now surpassed 350 members.
Yes, thank you.
No worries.
Oh, hi.
I'm grateful as well.
Yeah.
It's been very busy and you've been on top of it.
Yes. Yes.
It's all good. It's all good. I heard you mention Lisa Miller earlier, Kelly. I did email her about this meeting, actually.
Well, it's funny. I was actually going to email her about this meeting, but I will email her after this meeting because she just did a panel with the Psychotherapy and Spirituality Institute in Manhattan, which I was previously managing director of, and Trinity Church in Wall Street, talking about these topics. In fact, I'm going to mention her work a little bit more in the recap of the meeting.
Oh, cool. So do you know her?
Yeah, I taught in that program actually for 3 years when I was in New York.
Great.
It's a great initiative. It really is. I'm hoping that the model catches on, right? I mean, it's really interdisciplinary and innovative.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I saw her last week in London. She's visited the UK twice the last month. Yeah. So.
She's been getting around.
Yeah. She was there with her husband.
Great.
And their friend Meredith. We went for drinks in Soho. Well, coffee in Soho. It was fun. Nice to see her.
Well, there also will be this recording of the meeting, right? Available on the Flourishing channel.
Yeah. I need to get these all added to. There's a backlog. These get added to YouTube, but yeah, it will get added to YouTube in due course.
Let me just welcome a couple late joiners. Hi, Karen. And I see, where did Pilar go? She was joining a minute ago.
I added her to a group immediately. So.
Oh, okay. we are in breakout rooms at the moment. So.
You're muted, Karen, if you want to mute yourself.
Sorry, I was just trying at HFH to get online and I could not get a secure connection. Somehow Harvard just was rejecting the link.
Yeah. Well, the video will be posted so you can see the first part, which was a really lovely overview by Kelly, and then a very meaningful presentation on forgiveness by Paulo. So good start to the meeting, and I'm sure the discussion is very lively in the small groups right now.
Awesome.
You're right, Kathleen. Did you want to join a breakout room?
Sure. I actually lost internet briefly, so I was kicked out of the breakout room when we were just getting started. So,
which one were you in?
Yeah, honestly, I'm not sure.
Do you remember any names of who was in it?
No, because literally we were just getting started and
Oh,
I
okay.
dropped out.
And I'm just going to
So
put in one of them. All right, here we go.
fabulous.
How much time is left for the breakouts?
10 minutes. It's actually worthwhile. It's worth your while
Okay.
if you want to join
Great.
one.
Great.
Well,
Okay.
9 minutes and 17 seconds, but it's still worthwhile.
Thanks, Kelly. All right, John, I'll let you send me away.
I think, did I already, hang on, let me just check. I think I already sent you a link, but maybe it's gone off.
Okay, let me just
I'll just move you to a different one. It's all right. Here we go.
okay.
There you go.
And if anyone
Thank you.
else in the gallery is thinking about joining a breakout group, it's not too late. So I know we have 4 other people in addition to Jonathan, Matt, and myself. The other thing is we have one more meeting left in the program year for the Spirituality Flourishing Interest Group, and we're going to incorporate the report back into planning programming for next year. So this is also, partly us doing some field research here. I'm sorry the lighting is so. I'm in a cabin in the Blue Ridge Mountains,
Oh,
which
wow.
is wonderful. It's a wonderful problem to have, but I wasn't even sure the Wi-Fi was going to hold. So I'm just glad we made it as far as we have without incident.
Great.
Well, how Kelly, is the group size of 15 working out? Has that been an
I think
idea?
that was great advice. Thank you. I mean, what we've had though is a lot of fluctuation. So we capped out at 15, and then we lost like 3 people. So then we were like around, a dozen, which is a nice number. And I think right now we're at 10. But what we've been able to do is also get really clear about our mission as a group and like the mandate around future work, which was, in any group that's forming, it's a topic of some that causes some confusion and sometimes controversy, right? Like, what are we even doing here? Like, this group has a lot of potential. It does. In fact, it even has an assignment. We just need to execute on said assignment. Right? So I think we're much better coordinated. And I think, we're talking about what to do next year. I mean, we definitely want to build out a website that has better curated resources. We don't have that currently. But Nicoleta did get the website together for us in sort of record time. So we're really grateful to her for that. And then thinking about, strategic partnerships. So that might be with Princeton, which, Nicoleta has she's affiliated with the Center for Society and Religion there. So, but if you have suggestions, John or Matt, those would be most welcome.
Suggestions for what website construction, or who does it, or
any sort of strategic partners who might be interested in joining with Spirituality
Oh,
Flourishing.
yes. Some of the audio when you were sharing cut out. So John and I missed a little bit of that. But yeah, I can think about that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, ask Lisa as well, because she knows everyone in that world. I can ask Lisa.
Yeah.
So by strategic partner, what exactly do you have in mind?
Well, one of the things we talked about this year, I mean, it's also, I love the ambition that people are bringing to the group, but I mean, it's also a question of, making things sort of manageable and building capacity. And we're still very much in building capacity phase of things. But we are talking about having conferences that would be open to the public, that would involve outside speakers. And we'd love to have co-hosts and, share a platform with whoever would want to share one with us.
Cool.
That's great.
And there's also, Templeton is getting so busy and also so generous with their spiritual exercises initiative. Did you guys see that? It was announced just a couple of weeks ago. That they're basically just really funding community-based research into these interventions. So they're interested not just in kind of disseminating the information, but also applying the knowledge.
That's great. So will your group go after some funds for that purpose?
Well, so it's interesting. I'm not sure exactly, and I can, maybe you and I can talk about this, Matt, about how to position ourselves. Are we an outgrowth of the Flourishing Network? Are we an independent entity? How do we, I certainly don't want to misrepresent ourselves.
Right.
right now it's not like we have a nonprofit. We're not an institute, right? We're essentially an outgrowth of the network.
Right. Is there a member based at a university that could receive funds? That's the
I think
easy,
that might be Nicoleta.
that's the easiest thing to do,
yes.
and then have sub awards to others in the group from that
Okay.
receiving home institution.
Okay.
Yeah, Nicoleta's at Princeton, right?
Yeah, I mean, well, Nicoleta's everywhere. I mean, she lives in Switzerland.
She's in Switzerland, but she's at Princeton. Oh, what? She a researcher at Princeton?
No, she graduated from Princeton. She's affiliated with Princeton, and she's just, I mean, like every week she's at a new conference somewhere else in the world. So she's actually at the Harvard Club tonight. I was going to take her out to coffee, and then I wound up in the Blue Ridge Mountains. So that wasn't possible. But yeah, so she also meets a lot of people. Mostly she's interested, she's sort of in sort of the line of philanthropy and informed philanthropy. So it's not quite exactly the space, but there's definitely possibilities there for some synergies.
Yeah.
Good. So if you're down to 10, will you reopen the invitation for folks to join to get back to 15?
I was thinking, like, I think at this point, if we have 10 sort of capable, informed, grounded members, right, and we have these we've created a group culture and their norms are established, then we could even go to 20. But what I do want to do is when people come in, say, what would be your portfolio? Like, what would you want to contribute? Like, either in terms of research interest or in terms of outreach. Because I think if we have a lot of interest, specifically after this meeting, then we're going to have to be careful about sort of balancing the group out.
Yeah.
I mean, there's definitely holes, we don't have any Jewish members, for instance, which I've been reaching out to my rabbi friends. I'm like, do you know anyone? I would like, not that we have to be sort of the Parliament of World Religions, which I am speaking at, by the way, in August. But I would like for us to have as broad a sampling of the wisdom traditions as possible. We're getting there. And then we have people like John and Thomas who, like many today, have multiple religious belongings, who come out of the Mormon community but are both Zen Buddhists. So there's really neat intersections that are happening.
Good. So is that Tom Ord that you were referencing a minute ago?
Oh, that's Thomas McConkie. He's actually at the divinity school right now.
Yeah, I saw Tom on the Zoom today, and I know him from way back years ago. So I wondered how he connected with us, but look forward to debriefing with him.
Well, it's interesting. One of the group members who actually stepped down this week is a moderator at the Church of Canada. She just didn't feel like she could make the kind of time commitment that we're asking for going forward. But this has been really sort of a hot button topic, which is, because we are, because we're looking to be an interactive group, people actually have to show up for the meetings. If they can't show up for the meetings, then they can't be in the group. And then I know we had someone who wanted to come in from Australia, but we have a member in Egypt who couldn't make the hours that the person in Australia could make. So when people come to me from time zones that just aren't workable, given the commitment that we've made for our schedules, I'm like, take the template. Start a Spirituality and Flourishing Interest Group in Australia. I'm happy to share all the resources with you, but I do have a commitment to the group that we have currently.
Sure. Was that Carmen from Canada? Was that her?
It was Linda somebody.
Okay.
Oh my God. And I mean, she was very dogged. She really wanted in. And I was like, if you can show up at 4 a.m., God love you. But otherwise, the Egyptian member is gone just about as late as she can go at this point. So
no, I meant the one from Canada. Was that Carmen?
Oh, that's Carmen Lansdowne. Yes.
Yeah. I met her in Rome last year, and she's doing remarkable things, but probably doing too much at the moment.
Very busy. So can you give them the 1 minute warning, John? Because we're gonna have to call them out in just a minute, so they get the 60 seconds. to
Oh,
count
shall I just
down.
I'll just close the rooms then, shall I? If you close the rooms,
do you do? Oh yeah, close the room. Close the room.
right, here we go then. Bear in mind, some people might rejoin the room early. That's what often happens when you close rooms. But
Sure.
Matt, do you want time to make any announcements at the end of today?
No, I think your message covered some of the important announcements. So I think that's good for the moment.
Cool. Yeah, I don't have anything else to say today.
Okay.
Some the Zoom screen share like the entire. I'm assuming.
I think you got your audio is going a bit, but I think you just asked, will you be able to still share your screen? And the answer is yes.
No. This is probably.
Ah, that's better.
Is the sound better now?
Sounds much better now.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, let's hit recording.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yep. Loud and clear. All right. Welcome back, everyone. Kelly, after you.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back. So is everyone out of the breakout rooms now, John?
Yes.
Great. So we are going to have our discussion leaders, SFIG members, report back from what came up in their group. And we're just going to have like a minute or two per group. So we'll start with Nicoleta and whatever came up in your group, if you could share that with us, please.
Yes. Hello, everyone. Thank you so very much. We had a fantastic discussion, and it was very organic, if you want, because we each started to explain what actually, I asked, what is the specificity of spirituality in the forgiveness and flourishing? Because there are so many ways, actually, and so many disciplines that are talking about that. So the goal was to identify what it's really spirituality bringing, like the competitive advantage. I'm an economist. What is the competitive advantage of spirituality in flourishing and in the forgiveness process? And actually what we identify, it's definitely spirituality helps to have different perspectives. We talk about the big picture, different perspectives. So it allows this hybrid view of the situations. This is about leads to more wisdom. So this I would say lucidity, this distance that spirituality allows for wisdom and to be better armed to cope with. So spirituality was mentioned as a way to cope with situations and with difficult situations. We had very concrete examples in adolescents, how this could be used for a better adolescent process and crisis. And I think in the end, it is about wisdom in action, but also it's the idea of transcendence. So this is spirituality brings a third entity in this process, because usually there is human to human or human to community, but spirituality and religion allows this third entity to allow this process ongoing and to be successful. And yes, somebody asked the question, but does really spirituality brings more flourishing? And this is a very good question, and we need to analyze it. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Nicoleta. John, if you could report back from your group, that'd be great.
I'd be happy to, Kelly. We had a fascinating conversation. Very diverse group, very diverse backgrounds. And yet I think everybody keyed in on the thought that spirituality is what we share in common, our shared humanity, our deepest existential questions, and sort of a common ground that we have as humans. So no matter what the setting or the discipline or the environment, we find a touchstone with other people through spirituality. And through that, we sense into each other's sense of flourishing and well-being. We sense into exploring a sense of meaning and purpose in our lives. And it was interesting. One comment was, we find spirituality because we have a sense of something larger than ourselves. But then another comment was, spirituality is found in the utter simplicity of breathing. So it's in the transcendent, and it's in the immanent, and it's with us in groups. And I think we all shared a spirit of gratitude, which is one of the just foundational elements of spirituality from really all of the traditions. And so it was a beautiful spiritual moment with a lot of hope about how spirituality can help us even more as human beings.
Thank you so much, John. Thomas, if you could report back from your group, please.
Yeah, I'll do my best. Our conversation was really rich and diverse. So I don't know if I can come up with a single through line, but let me try to capture some of the fascinating insights, ideas that were mentioned. There seemed to be a bit of a consensus in our group that spirituality is something like an invisible realm, a beyond to which we can all orient and connect. And when we do so, we're infinitely resourced. So one of the group members talked about the application of economics. If we're infinitely resourced in spirituality, then we don't assume scarcity in world resources, we assume abundance. And that changes the whole way we come together and exchange economically in the world. So that was a fascinating idea. Another, or I should say, a fascinating reality that somebody pointed to. Someone else in the group who works with refugee families talked about the task of translating culture into spiritual values. So there's a kind of a particular context and traditions, lineages we come from, and how do we translate the values within those lineages into a more universal culture, something that, you know, a common language we have. So that was an interesting, perhaps design challenge in that particular community, but also something we face in the 21st century, you know, and then, the state of our world. Another one that came to mind that I just found so fascinating, and this was also from Barrett, who working with refugee families, who mentioned that it can be difficult, I'll put this in the best words I can, it can be difficult for adults to get along, but if we focus on children and how to instill and honor spirituality, spiritual values in the children, that the adults, you know, lo and behold, start to get along a little better, because we realize we love our kids and we want the best for them. So.
Thank you so much, Thomas. And Kenny, if we could hear back from your group, please. Are you muted, Kenny?
Sorry, am I unmuted? Yeah, like the others, a very rich, diverse chat that it's hard to pull a through line from, but there was a lot of quality perspectives coming through from backgrounds in sociology, psychology, science, and there was a general consensus that spirituality is kind of essential to human flourishing, because we're kind of spiritual beings, but we also, well, it was also discussed as an important fact in sustainability, in how we value the planet, in connection, in sense making, in kind of our cosmologies, allowing us to step outside of our perspective and make sense of the world that we're in. Different spirituality allows different layers of explanation. Which was interesting when we were discussing it from sociological or psychological or scientific perspective, that there was a general agreement that there is something that spirituality, as ill-defined as it is, seems to offer and seems essential to our well-being and to human flourishing. So yeah, like lots of value. I'd have loved to spend the next hour or two chatting to all those people, but that's where
Thank you, Kenny. Thank you. Paulo, if you could take a minute to report back from your group. Paulo, I think you're muted.
Can you hear now? Can you hear now?
Yes, yes.
Yes. So it is an intriguing proposition. So what if someone, or what if we don't need or we don't feel the need to forgive? What happens then? Because we're talking about the conversation about the possibility of you have by ways of your personality, by ways of your position in life, you don't feel the need to forgive because you feel that you can detach from the situation. You got prepared so much, and you got prepared by suffering. You got prepared by extreme situations of trauma and war, and that's what you have been learning, that detachment, and I'm talking about a healthy detachment, a detachment in which you position yourself, you feel at peace to not consider the question. So the conversation that came in, so first, why spirituality, is a sense of wonder, a sense of amazement by this possibility, a sense of a blessing also. What if this possibility is open to each one of us? As a therapist, I find intriguing and find interesting, that maybe the question of how people are formed, or the personality, how people maybe genetics will make more people more prone to forgiveness than others. And the question of exactly what is forgiveness and when it happens. It seems again that the spirituality and the sense of understanding what a blessing is, where this forgiveness comes from, again, it opens the possibility of having this kind of conversation. That's all happened in this small space of time. So I'm grateful for everybody who spoke and was present in the group.
Thank you so much. And Cheryl, if you could report back from your group.
Yes, I'd be happy to. We had a diverse group. It sounds like most of us did. And one of the diversities that was noted within our group was culture in general, and the fact that we had members from really all over the world. And that did play into our conversation around spirituality and how do you define it? And what does it look like as it is conceptualized in different cultures? And just this idea of spirituality as a multidimensional concept came up, and we talked quite at length around even the 4 Bs in terms of belonging, bonding, behaving, believing, coming into play, and what that would look like for spirituality as using these different initiatives and angles and lenses to approach spirituality and what it would mean in terms of flourishing. We had a really nice, rich discussion, and we would have liked to have continued for some time, but obviously in this space, we were only able to get so far, but it was a very solid, good conversation.
Thank you, Cheryl. And thank you everyone who participated in these conversations. We do have a June meeting of the Spirituality and Flourishing Interest Group coming up. And so we will incorporate the sharings from small group into our planning for the coming program year. So earlier this month, the federal government in the United States declared an end to the emergency measures implemented during the COVID-19 pandemic. To date, more tragically, more than 1.1 million Americans have died from COVID, but that does not account for the total amount of excess deaths during this time. Something else observed in this country was a spike in the level of so-called deaths of despair, including but not limited to substance abuse, high-risk behaviors, and suicidality. And the increase of these is correlated with a sharp decrease in Americans' reported participation in spiritual communities. And in their work, both Dr. Miller and Dr. Vanderweel have shown that a privatized individual spirituality does not afford the same sorts of protective benefits as individuals' participation with particular faith communities and specific religious traditions do. So like many other nations, developed nations today, the US is also confronting what has been called the loneliness epidemic, which has untold societal costs. Those of us who are involved in the teaching learning community created within SFIG this past year remain committed to helping people find helpful social connections and communal expressions that support their spiritual lives as well as their human flourishing. And before we end, Nicoleta is going to take just a couple of minutes to provide you with an overview of our website. I will share the screen and we can just walk people through that, Nicoleta.
Yes, so as we heard from all the groups, everyone it's interesting to continue this discussion. So if you are interested, please do not hesitate to access our website. There is a contact form, and we are still developing, but we put here the vision. It's to create in this group, we are practically oriented with interventions, but we are science-based. So in this group, we really look to govern the science of spirituality and flourishing, and to make a synthesis about what would be the possible interventions based on the science. So please do not hesitate. So we have our mission statement there. We are a group in About Us. We are working a lot on the resources we want to put at your disposal. Do not hesitate also to come back to us to suggest a resource that you think it is useful. We want to be as inclusive as possible, and we are open to your suggestions. So we look for your inputs, and I think in fact spirituality, it exists in all of flourishing, whatever it's your interest group. There is a part of spirituality simply because it's made up of humans, and you are there. So please do not hesitate to contact us. This is our website. Kelly and I are at your disposal, and we are waiting for you to join our mission. Thank you
so much, Nicoleta. Next year, it's also our intention to use the website to share resources that we create within spirituality in the Flourishing Interest Group that we can share with institutions and communities, hoping to better tap the potential that spirituality can hold for a fuller human flourishing. We especially want to thank Matt Lee and Harvard University and its Flourishing Network for the generous support it provided us during our inaugural program year, and many thanks to you all for your participation today. Before we close, I would like to actually share a photo with you all. I took it this week. I took it yesterday, in fact. All week, I've been at a spirituality conference at a retreat center in the Blue Ridge Mountains, and when I stepped into the chapel and its grounds yesterday, I was greeted by this sight. Take a close look at the interior, please. Hanging from the rafters are ropes of ribbons, and each of those ribbons contains a prayer that visitors brought with them to the space. Each was literally lifted up and then held high in sacred space. I've known Dr. Miller for approximately a decade now and taught for a time in her program at Columbia. She often says that the silencing and sidelining of religious teachings have meant that we've lost millennia of practice wisdom about how to live well and humanely. As a clinician and clergy person, I agree completely. Dr. Miller has noted that as public spheres become more devoid of any acknowledged spiritual presence, they simultaneously become more pathogenic and unhealthy. If we can reclaim the role of spirituality in our lives, we can tap its rich resources, its storehouse of shared meaning. We can more openly embrace our brokenness as well as our wholeness. What these ribbons hanging from the rafters in this chapel signify to me is that each of us is eager to see our lives truly sacralized, to trust that our stories can become part of a living compendium of sacred scripture, and to believe that we can find holy ground and build upon it together. We need to reclaim shared practices and rituals for the whole human family. In the emails that he sends to those of us in spirituality and flourishing, Paulo signs off with the phrase, pace e bene, peace and all goodness. We wish that for all of you in the Flourishing Network today, and can think of no finer parting blessing. Peace and all goodness to each and every one of you. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kelly.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nicoleta.
Thanks, Paulo.
Thank you so much. God bless.
Thank you.
Obrigado.
Thank you. That was
De nada,
beautiful.
de nada.